Hey guys, welcome back to our I Told You So series, or let me say, Mean Stack from Scratch series, the I Told You So application. Our last episode went a bit over. I think I waffled on a bit there, but no worries. I think it's as long as you guys got to understand what we were trying to accomplish. Another thing maybe that I should point out as well is that um, I expect that most of you guys that are going to find these videos are starting out in Node and will be uh, partaking on this journey with us. But I just want you to also be aware that, in fact, I know that there will be some of you guys that do know your stuff and aren't necessarily so clueless about what we're doing. Um, just if you could just bear with the rest of us as well here. Um, we're not out here to patronize or make anybody feel like they don't know what they're doing if they do. But this is just for the sake of everybody else that is, um, just starting out. So if it does seem like I do go on about some explanations and stuff, just bear with us. You could probably skip through some of the stuff that you think is we waffling a bit, but some people might find it, um, yeah, might find it useful. Find it useful for them. So before, in fact, no, let's get into it. So in this episode, we're actually going to start writing our actual server application, as in getting something to write to start running on a particular URL with a port number that you can access from any machine that is connected to the network where the application is running. So what I'm going to do is that we are going to create this Node application by creating a file, which is sort of our, can I call it our entry point for our server or application? And basically, what we're going to do in this file is we're going to start bootstrapping our application. So I'll explain as much as I can as we're going along. And the most important thing that you guys need to understand here is that we're going to be using something called Express.js. Now, Express.js, if those of you who are not familiar with web servers, is that normally when you're running a web application, it runs on a web server, and that web server will have basically different jobs or basically it has a particular function in this ecosystem or in your technology stack where it serves web applications, it resolves requests from a browser to your web server, and a few other things as well. So that's what we're going to be using Express for that. And Express.js basically is that for Node.js, is that it does give us something that we call middleware that you can use to resolve some of your requests from a web browser and a whole lot of other things. So wherever I can, I'll post some extra reading material in the descriptions that you guys can click on and find out a bit more. But I won't dwell too much on the explanations. I'll just explain the little bit that I think will be enough for us to continue going without being too clueless. So without any further ado, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create this entry point for our application. And I am going to call it index.js. So you're going to see our JS. So one thing you will notice is that most of our files are going to have JS extension, and that's basically just because they're JavaScript files. So let's begin our application. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import our model. So I'll try to do some code commenting as well as we are proceeding. So the first thing we're going to do is import our modules. So let's import Express. So one thing you will notice is that I've got code hinting on my, or not code hinting, but IntelliSense. I think the IntelliSense comes automatically with Visual Studio Code. One thing that you guys might not have is like the JS hinting. For example, if I forget a semicolon, by the way, semicolons are optional in different versions of JavaScript, but in this case, just because I've got a plugin called JS Hint installed, it actually tells me that I am missing a semicolon. So if you do want to install JS Hint, I think the command for installing it is Okay, that's just an update. So in fact, because I'm on a Mac, nope. I'm trying to think how you go about installing. I should have actually searched this first. But anyway, the easiest way actually is just to go to your browser and search for Visual Studio Code Marketplace. And once you get into the marketplace, you can search for JS Hint. So once you've got JS Hint, it will give you a little description on how to go about installing it. So normally you'll go in and copy this. So also just take note for the command. It's showing me commands that are specific for the Mac over here. So if you're on Windows, you're going to see something else. So basically what they're saying is you copy that command there. And then once you get to your MacBook, you click, in my case, CMD Command P, and then I paste my installer there. And in this case, I've actually got an update, so I'm going to update anyway. But yeah, anyway, let's continue. I'm waffling away here. But anyway, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to import Express. So if you guys are familiar with libraries, if you've worked with C# or Java, you'll know that there are libraries that maybe other third-party companies or even the core APIs itself have got that you'll need to import before you use them or reference them. So that's exactly what we're doing here. What we're doing is we're actually saying that we're trying to import a package or module, in this case called Express, that we want to reference in our application. So another thing that I'm going to do is actually I'm not going to reference it as Express directly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called app, and then I am going to basically do that. And I think in this case, let's not import anything else. Let's just focus on getting our application running. So one thing that I will do is that I want my application to run on a particular port. So I'm going to insert a standard here, which at some point we'll use, but for now it's not important. So normally when you're running on a particular environment, maybe you've got a continuous integration pipeline where you can automatically deploy these applications. You will have somewhere where you define variables and configurations and all of that. And normally these will be environment variables that your application can reference. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to define something like process.env.port. And if, as I said, that if you're running on a particular environment, this is actually going to get, do you have a predefined port number that I can use? If I don't find that, or you don't have that, we're going to decide to run our application on port 3000. So you'll find this when you're deploying your applications on Heroku or other platforms, they normally have a process environment variable that you could use. But for now, the most important one is this. You could literally also, if you wanted, just deploy it as that, and it would always run on port 3000. But I'm going to keep it that because that also just looks cool. So another thing that we'll do before we get in, do you want to do anything fancy? No, let's not do anything fancy. Let's just start our server and see what happens. So the first thing we're going to do is actually tell our application to accept requests from port 3000, right? So it's listing on port 3000. And then another thing we want to do is something we're going to do very often, and maybe as time goes on you'll understand, is that we're going to actually export this module and I hope I'm writing that correctly. I might get some funky. So this is JS Hint actually giving me all this cool code hinting there. So yeah, So this is normally what we need to get our application up and running. In fact, let's add, no, let's not add console logging. No, let's do that. Let's add logging. So when our application starts listening, we basically want to tell the developer that, hey, look, I told you so is running on port. By the way, if I'm making a lot of mistakes, I apologize. It's about, I think it's 2 a.m. this side, and I'm still up making these tutorials. But anyway, so basically what we've done here, let me add some comments. We have said, we have imported, in fact, let's just do this, import packages. And then you get some people have got funky ways of actually separating the units of code there. And then we're going to copy that. And then here, I'm just going to put some configurations. And then I'm going to say, let's say configuration / bootstrapping. So I'm going to add like a little comment there that says, define our link port. So this actually I'm going to end up putting at the end of the application. So let me not, by the way, you could write this however you want. I'm just being very meticulous about this. But so in fact here I could just say start our application. And then I'm going to say expose this could be incorrect, but anyway, for referencing. In fact, yeah, let's just do that. I don't normally write these kind of verbose comments, so that's why I'm being a bit. Is this a word? Pernickety? That sounds like a word. I don't know. Let's just shout out the developer. So we're going to try run this. I expect it to crash, by the way. So there's two ways we're going to run these applications, and you guys can decide how you want to do it. The one way we can do it is we can try running it in terminal. And normally what you would do is you would make sure that you're in the folder with that particular index.js, the entry point of your application, and you would type node index.js. And it fails, which I expected it to do. And the reason why it's failing is because we've told it to import some specific libraries, but we don't have these libraries in our application. So what we're going to need to do, so in fact, you actually can see the first error it's giving us says error cannot find module express. And that's basically saying that this module that you've defined, I tried to import it and I failed. So we're actually going to have to import our application. But before I import our modules and have the app running, I want to show you guys another reason why we use Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code has actually got a cool debugger in the IDE itself for JavaScript and Node.js. What? Amazing, I know. So what you can do is you could literally, if you wanted, click on this little bug here. And one thing you'll notice is that we don't have, it's going to create a configuration file in our Project Explorer on this side. If we click plus there, basically we're telling it to run, and we're saying run the Node.js application. We click run. It goes and creates this funky file here, which basically describes or sets up our environment for the debugger. So if you come in here now, you should see this vs code folder here. You don't have to worry about that. You're never going to change it. Now that you've defined it, it's fine. So if I click on it again, it's going to try running. And now you can see actually the cool thing is that we have breakpoints and our application is stopping. And we can actually go and do things like inspect to see exactly what is happening in our code. So here we've hit the breakpoint, and the and the application is actually stopped. It's paused at this point. It's basically telling you that something's about to go down here. Things are about to bomb out. If I click play, it's literally going to tell me the exact same thing that the terminal told me. So that's another reason why you should use Visual Studio Code. There are other ways to get the debugger running. You can get it in Chrome as well if you want, but I suggest this workflow, especially if you don't have anything in mind. It will just help you. Yeah. Another thing, guys, is that please do not use IDEs like Notepad++. I know being able to use those IDEs instead of like big bulky IDEs means kick ass and all, but I think working effectively and working smart is better than knowing every single command by head and being able to do all these things in Notepad++. Notepad++ is super cool, but if you are starting out, start out with an IDE like this, because it's just going to help you learn things a bit quicker and help you debug and troubleshoot. So how do we debug and troubleshoot this issue? I've explained to you guys that we are having an issue where we can't import a module called Express. So let's go in and import these modules. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in terminal. In fact, let me clear my terminal here. What we need to do now is we need to tell npm that we have got these applications called, or in fact, we've got this application called Express, right? There's two ways you can go about doing that. What you need to know is that in the end, this application or this dependency that your application requires is going to be defined in your package.json file. Your package.json file, as I said, describes the application. There's where you're going to define your dependency. So you would come somewhere in here, type in dependencies, and then you would say Express. So another thing why I like Visual Studio Code is that you can actually control click and it will bring up hints for you as well with the different version numbers. Where you say Express, you can either get the latest or get a particular version, which is 4.14. I mean, this, you guys don't have to worry about the versioning and whatnot, but sometimes when you're running on a particular environment, you always want to know what version you're using. You don't just want to update whenever someone does an npm install. So if you go and do this, you are able to install your package. But I'm going to show you guys actually another way of doing it, which once you know as well, will help you when you're doing things like continuous integration and automatic deployments. So instead of defining it here, we're actually going to go. So I removed it, right? Right. So I'm actually going to say which is the one that failed. I go and I copy it, Control C, and I go into my terminal, make sure I'm in the folder where my index.js and my package file is. And then I go and I say npm install, I paste what I copied, and then I say -- save. So watch what's going to happen to this package.json file here. So it's fetching the dependencies. Okay, there we go. So if you look closely, it's actually gone and defined the dependency that we just fetched automatically for us. So this is quite cool because when you're using continuous integration environments, you can actually automate the whole process of adding new dependencies. So let's try running it again from the terminal. Node, index, hit enter. So it says I told you so is running on port 3000, which is freaking cool because what this means is actually we spurned. Is that a word? No, that's probably not a word. But we started a server that's currently running on port 3000. Let's see what happens if we go onto that port. If we say localhost port 3000, we hit enter. It says cannot get that, which is brilliant because this actually is our server or Express. And is it Express? I think it's Express that's actually telling us that, look, you try to get a particular address. I could actually not resolve what you're looking for. So I'll show you what happens if your server is not running. So if you come in here and click Control C, which will kill your server, if you try and search for it, it says the site cannot be reached. I'm sure most of you have seen this when your site is, or when your internet is down, or maybe there's a website that you're hosting that dies out or something like that. So basically what it's telling us is that in this case, our server is not even running. This is not even our server bringing this back. This is Google Chrome that says, you know, I tried to reach this server and I did not find anything. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick actually that I use a lot in Chrome, and why Chrome is just one of the most badass development tools ever. In fact, not now. It won't work now because we don't have too much content. But anyway, I digress. We've seen how to run our code from terminal. Let's run it from Visual Studio Code. So we can actually go in here, click play, and I told you so is running on port 3000. And if we go here, cannot get, that's actually actual server getting that command. So I'm going to show you guys how this actually works. So, in fact, not yet. We'll get to it. Sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is that, in fact, I think I've gone a bit over. Let's leave it at that for now. And when we get back, I'll show you guys how to define an actual page that can come back when someone does request this particular URL. So guys, yeah, thanks for watching and listening, and see you next time.